Welcome to Star Wars Action News, helping Star Wars collectors collect better.
Hey everybody, Andrew here, and I'm back to talk to you about the latest entry into my Hot Toys collection, the Stormtrooper 2-pack. Now, if you saw our Hot Toys coverage from Star Wars Celebration, you heard me say that I am not going to troop build Hot Toys. So why would I need to get a 2-pack? Well, besides the exclusive accessories that we'll get to later, the 2-pack is actually two different troopers. One is about a half-inch shorter than the other. So it's a different character, right? Right. Let's just go with that. Now, just to recap, these were the third and fourth figures announced in the new Movie Masterpiece series. The first two, Han and Chewbacca, still haven't shipped, and the fifth one to be announced was the Shadow Trooper, which ended up being the first one to ship. As you'll recall, Arnie, Marjorie, and I reviewed that figure back in episode 446. And, not surprisingly, that figure is basically just a repaint of the taller of the two Stormtroopers. So all of the great sculpting details are the same on these figures. What is different, though, is the paint. Obviously, right? Like the Shadow Trooper, this figure is super glossy, and that may actually be a slight detriment this time around. One of the things that we mentioned with the Shadow Trooper was that because they purposefully painted on scuff marks, we are less likely to actually notice any real scuffs. Well, since these sculptures are all kinds of shiny white, it was very easy for me to notice a couple of scuffs on one of his legs and some chipped paint on one of the helmets. And that same helmet also had some poorly trimmed plastic bits around one of the auditory sensors. Luckily, I was able to carefully scrape off the scuffs with a toothpick, but I have contacted Sideshow about getting a replacement helmet for the chipped one. So, if you're keeping score at home, since I had that broken grenade canister with my Shadow Trooper, I've had a problem with 2 out of the 3 figures I've received thus far. Now, I'm not saying that I'm starting to regret my decision of so far being all in on Hot Toys. Sideshow has been really good about taking care of me, but it's definitely not a trend that I'm overly fond of. Speaking of the grenade canister and the shiny white armor, if you get a Stormtrooper, either the single or the 2-pack, be very careful when you slide the metal clips of that grenade canister over the back of the belt. Because they are metal and the armor underneath the belt is shiny white plastic, the clips can leave little scratches on the armor. I would even go so far as to recommend taking the canister off whenever you're posing the figure's upper body, just to make sure you don't damage that armor. These troopers also have the same articulation as the Shadow Trooper, which is to say that it is mostly great other than some limitations caused by that armor that it wears, including the head popping off if you try to turn it too far over his shoulder. And this limited neck articulation makes it pretty impossible to pose the trooper using the exclusive DLT-19 heavy blaster rifle to snipe rebel scum. One of the questions I had about the second, shorter trooper was how they would do the armor. I wondered if they would create smaller armor plates to better fit the shorter body type. Nope, it's made up of the exact same pieces as its taller counterpart. This causes a little bit of an issue around the midsection as the chest piece overlaps the abdomen armor and restricts his movement in that area. And once you add the belt, well, you can barely even see the abdomen armor at all, and this almost makes the figure look a bit stockier than the other. And the feet have the same dislocated ankle look as the Shadow Trooper if you don't arrange it just so. And because the feet are now white, they kind of remind me of Cousin Eddie's shiny leather shoes from Christmas Vacation. But that's all the negative I have to say about these figures, and they're all pretty minor. Once the figures are posed, they look great, especially when you get good lighting reflected off that shiny armor. It has great paint detail on the helmet and the abdomen armor, but seeing as how it's pretty much the only paint on the whole figure, the rest of the look depends solely on just how pretty that glossy white armor looks. And with some really good display lights, these figures will look really sharp. The single trooper offering comes with 7 additional hands, and the 2-pack comes with doubles of those same hands. Both figures also come with an E11 blaster rifle and an SE14C blaster pistol, both of which fit in the leather holster attached to the utility belt. I'm not entirely sure why the pistol is included, as we never see a Stormtrooper with one of those, but maybe the trooper in Cloud City held one of these sideways to dismantle C-3PO, gangsta style. If you bought the exclusive 2-pack, you also get a mouse droid that has some really good detail bits on its side and top and looks very accurate to the way it appears on film. And it's got a little tailhook that, honestly, I never even knew existed until now. You could almost see one of the trooper's kids tying a string to it and pulling it around behind him like a little toy puppy. Of course, now, back in 2014, when images of these first arrived online during the opening of Hot Toys' secret base store, I immediately thought I knew what we would be getting as an exclusive accessory. Looking at these two troopers standing next to each other, it becomes very evident that these would make perfect Luke and Han in Stormtrooper disguises. One is the standard height, while the other is too short for a Stormtrooper. I would have sworn that we'd be looking at exclusive swap-out heads of our two daring rescuers. It's even more obvious due to one of the exclusive accessories we do get, the DLT-19 Heavy Blaster Rifle that we see Han carrying down the Death Star hallway on their way to the detention level. This heavy blaster is probably my favorite part of these figures. Why? Because it has moving parts! It's not just there to convince me to buy two Stormtroopers at the same time, they really put a lot of detail into it, and the results are a really cool blaster. It has sights that pop up and a fold-out stand for sniping, and these all feel very similar to the fold-out stock that is on the standard blaster rifle that we got with the Shadow Trooper. But what puts this blaster over the top is that its loading mechanism is actually spring-loaded. Now I know that's not really practical when you pose your figure. The Trooper isn't going to be able to pull it back, obviously, but it's a great little detail that I was surprised to find. Another surprise was an accessory that I didn't even know was included. A gun rack to display all your heavy blaster rifles. The rack itself is really simple and feels like a cheap add-on, but since it wasn't even listed as an included accessory, I can't really complain too much. And while right now it looks a little silly with only the one rifle, but with the Space Trooper coming with a T-21 light repeating blaster, and the Sand Trooper coming with a T-21 and a DLT-19, it'll be nice to have a way to display them while they're not being wielded by their troopers. I actually prefer the figure stand that comes with these Stormtroopers over the single-colored one that the Shadow Trooper stands on. The grill is a dark red and has some little scuff marks painted on it, which really helps to make the mundane stand look a little less mundane. I still think it'd look cool to have a lighted effect come up through the grill and really help articulate it more, and the added light would only enhance the glossy armor. Now I am still a little disappointed that my prediction of swappable heads didn't come to fruition, but always in motion is the future. You can guarantee that I'll try to put Han's head on the taller trooper when the smuggler arrives later this summer. And there's a New Hope Luke coming in the future too, as revealed by Hot Toys' Facebook page on May the 4th. So if we're lucky, the heads will be compatible, so we can have what the Stormtrooper 2-pack is obviously supposed to represent, without having to buy another 2-pack later on down the road. Hopefully it won't come with any special exclusive accessories that'll convince me to buy it as well. Even if the Han and Luke heads aren't compatible, I'm looking forward to setting up that scene of them walking down the hall with Chewie as he scares off that poor little mouse droid. And that's probably the best part about these early offerings. Sure, we don't have a 1/6 scale Boba Fett, a Greedo for Arnie, or a Jar Jar for Marjorie, but I really like how their first run of figures all work together and will be easy to display in different groupings to make up a number of scenes from A New Hope. Next to ship will be the Han and Chewbacca set in July. I'm really looking forward to getting something other than a variation on a Stormtrooper, and I'm anxious to see and feel how Chewie's mane turns out. So until then, this is Andrew.
Thanks for watching this video. You can see full episodes of Star Wars Action News with more collecting news and reviews at swactionnews.com. We also have thousands of toy and collectible photos in our photo gallery. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. May the pegs be stocked and the Force be with you.